At the beginning of the movie, we see a couple, Ben and Lora. It was their anniversary. For this, they decided to try something new and go on a boat trip to the sea. Their plan was to spend a few days together on the boat and then return. But then, Lora saw a beautiful island far away and asked Ben to stop there. Ben did not like the idea, but he didn't want to upset Lora. So, they left their big boat and put a small rubber boat in the water to go to the island. A small hut was built on the island. Seeing this, they thought someone must live there. They looked around the island for a long time, but they found nothing but mud. Ben told Lora that they should go back. But Lora said they had come this far, so let's look around more. Walking a little further, they found some old machines. Ben guessed that scientists must have come here years ago and done some experiments. However, they still didn't find anyone, so they decided to stay for a while before leaving. For now, they sat together, talking and making good memories. Lora and Ben took a lot of pictures. Then, Ben noticed that the sky was getting darker. He knew that a terrible storm was coming. He quickly told Lora they must return to their big boat. Staying here would be dangerous. Soon, they got into their small rubber boat and started heading back. But then, the storm hit. Huge waves flipped their boat, and they both fell into the water. They knew that if they stayed in the cold water during the storm, they would die. So, they decided to swim back to the island. There was no safe place on the island. The cold was getting worse. They managed to light a small fire and spent the night in fear. The next morning, they faced a new problem. They couldn't see their big boat anywhere. Lora told Ben, "You must have not set the anchor right. That is why the boat floated away." Ben replied, "No, I tied the boat properly." They both knew that the terrible storm had washed their big boat away. Still, hoping to find it, they decided to climb to the top of the island to look for it. From the high hills, they couldn't see the boat anywhere. They had to accept the truth. Their boat was swept away, and they were trapped on the island. To make things worse, the engine of their small boat ran out of gas, meaning they would have to row. They were very far from home. Lora told Ben, "We can't row that far. The weather is bad. If the storm comes again, we will both die. It is better to stay on the island for now." Hunger and thirst were already making them weak. Staying alive was a huge challenge. They split up and looked around the island, but they found no one living there. But their hard work paid off. Finally, they found a small spring with clean water. They drank it and saved some. Now, they needed food. They had to eat leaves they found at night. Without a radio or phone, they could not call for help. So, they made a large SOS sign on the ground. But they knew it was just about luck. If no one passed by for years, no one would save them. They still had to survive. They used pieces from the old machines to build a small shelter for themselves. They also found a can, which they used to store water. Days passed like this. Every day, they went out to look for food, but found nothing. Today, they found 3 graves on the island and realized that people used to live here. But now, they were gone. Lora was very sad, but Ben told her not to give up. One day, someone would surely come to save them. Lora fainted from not eating for days, and Ben carried her back to their hut. In the morning, when Lora woke up, she said, "We can't just live on the hope that someone will save us. We must be brave to survive." With that, she picked up some sticks and started sharpening them. Their plan was to hunt. Getting into their small boat, they went to another part of the island, where they saw many penguins. Seeing them, Lora cried. She had never killed an animal before, but now she had to. They hunted penguins that day and ate a full meal for the first time in days. The food gave them back their strength and courage. Their hopes of staying alive grew. They had learned to survive here, but they still wanted to go home. However, every passing day made it harder. Every day they stood on the beach, hoping someone would come to rescue them. But after waiting all day with no sign of help, they would go back to their shelter at night. Months passed. One day, when they went hunting again, they saw that all the penguins were gone. This broke Lora's heart. She remembered the day they were first trapped on the island. Lora told Ben, "I can't live here anymore. Let's try to leave in the small boat." Ben explained, "You are just being emotional. We can't make a long trip in this small boat. We have no map and don't know the way. At least we have some water on this island. How will we live in the open sea?" Lora asked, "So how is it safe here? What if we die of hunger?" That night, while arguing, they saw a light far away. There was a ship nearby. They began shouting for help, but no one could hear them from so far away. Ben couldn't let this chance go. He put the little fuel they had left into the boat, started the engine, and drove off. Lora kept yelling, "Don't go! You won't reach that ship. Our remaining fuel will run out." But Ben didn't listen and kept going. Lora watched Ben sail away. After some time, Ben's boat ran out of gas, and he could not reach the ship. Lora waited for him on the island, but Ben never came back. Days passed. Lora lost all hope of Ben returning, but she decided to stay strong and survive. One morning, Lora woke up to a knock on the door. She went outside and saw Ben, badly hurt. Lora couldn't believe her eyes. She pulled Ben inside. His leg and body were covered in wounds. Ben explained, "I never reached the ship. My boat ran out of gas, and the waves crashed me into the rocks. The small boat broke, and my leg was badly hurt. But I never gave up hope. I kept trying, and finally, after 4 hard days, I made it back." His leg was still bleeding. To close the cut, Lora began stitching it up. The pain was so bad that Ben fainted. Seeing Ben's state, she knew he had lost a lot of blood. Now, his life was in her hands. Lora refused to give up. She worked hard every day, finding food and getting water. Time passed. They supported each other, and slowly, Ben got better. Another month passed, and winter was coming. The island started to freeze. Lora knew they could not survive the cold, so they had to leave before winter arrived. Lora started packing to leave, but Ben told her, "I am too weak to go." She didn't argue with Ben because it was getting hard to convince him. She decided to do whatever it took. She would have to go for help alone. One day, she hunted and collected enough water. Then, she left it for Ben and set off, hoping she would return with help. But no matter how far she walked, she couldn't see anyone. The cold was so bad that she was freezing. One day, 2 days, and even a 3rd day passed. She found nothing and wanted to give up. For a long time, she lay in the snow. But then, she remembered that if she died, Ben would die too. Gathering her strength, she walked a bit more. Finally, there was a small red building. It was a research station. Seeing it brought tears to Lora's eyes. Suddenly, she found enough energy to run towards the station. When she went inside, she saw it was empty, but it had everything she needed. Food, a heater, beds, warm clothes, blankets, and even a snow sled. Lora couldn't believe her eyes. She found a map and immediately went back on the snow sled to rescue Ben. It was night when she finally reached him. After all her hard work, she got another shock. A terrible storm had hit, and their small shelter was destroyed. She couldn't find Ben anywhere. She thought he was dead. After searching everywhere, she found Ben buried under the broken pieces. His body was freezing cold, and he was not waking up. Lora pulled him onto the sled and hurried back to the research station. Once there, she removed his wet clothes, turned on the heater, and put warm clothes on him. As he got warmer, Ben's condition got better. Finally, he woke up and saw Lora cooking dinner for him. He couldn't believe his eyes. This warm shelter, the clothes, and the food, it all seemed like a dream. Lora hugged him and promised it was all real. Finally, after a long time, they had a safe place to sleep and good food to eat. They were so happy. They danced. They lived peacefully for a few days. Finally, the day came when their nightmare was over. They saw a large ship with scientists arriving at the station. They were finally rescued, and their troubles were over. They were filled with joy. This survival movie ends with their happy rescue. It teaches us that if we don't give up, we can survive any difficult time.